At 4:16 a.m. on March 16, 2001, a series of explosions occurred in Shijiazhuang City, Hebei Province, China. First, an explosion occurred in dormitory building number 15 in the living area of the number 3 cotton spinning factory, causing the entire building to collapse. A total of 93 people died and 12 were injured. Then, within a short period of time, explosions occurred in the dormitories of Municipal Construction No. 1 Company, the dormitories of Municipal Hardware Company, and No. 12 Minjin Street, Yuhua Road. A total of 108 people were killed and 38 injured. The ruins caused by the explosion were filled with thick smoke, dust, and the smell of gunpowder, and the sounds of wailing and struggling could be heard endlessly. The impact of the explosion shattered many families in a short time. After the incident, the victims' families cried and knelt in front of the rubble, hoping to dig out their trapped relatives. Some families of victims returned home from night shifts only to find their homes in ruins. The whole incident turned a peaceful night into a living hell, and for many, a good night's sleep was a farewell. Hebei Province set up a task force to investigate a series of explosions. After investigation by technical personnel, it was confirmed that the explosion was not caused by a gas leak. Through tests and analysis of explosion residues, the police found that the explosives, detonation methods, and devices of the 5 explosions were all the same. They used non-standard explosives with sulfur content of ammonium nitrate, detonated by detonators, and used soft-packaged explosive devices. Due to the close location of the explosion, the short time, and the similar attack targets, the police speculated that this was a premeditated revenge crime and determined that it was committed by the same criminal or gang. During the investigation, it was found that the social relations of residents at various explosion sites became a breakthrough point. After 8 hours of investigation, the police suspected that Jin Ruchao was the main suspect. Jin Ruchao was born in 1960, had a primary school education, was 41 years old at the time of the incident, and lived in room 201, building 16 of the 3rd cotton spinning factory, the location of the 2nd explosion. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison for rape and was released in 1997 with a reduced sentence. He married Xiao Yu and had a son, but they divorced after being imprisoned. Jin Ruchao showed a keen interest in explosives, making his own and conducting explosion tests on the balcony. He was suspicious, paranoid, and vindictive, and violently beat his ex-wife, father, and stepmother many times. He lived a lazy life and had no fixed job after being released from prison. He changed many jobs, but none lasted long. He applied to the neighborhood committee for a job, but he disliked the job he was offered and refused to go to work. When he was in financial difficulty, Jin Ruchao asked his family for money. If he was not satisfied, he would resort to violence. He had a terrible relationship with his family and hated his ex-wife intensely. He forcibly occupied room 201, which aroused deep hatred between the residents of room 301 upstairs, and even threatened to blow up the building in revenge. Jin Ruchao also had conflicts with residents of other explosion sites. His stepmother lived at the site of the first explosion and had a long-running feud with him. He was resentful of his ex-wife Xiao Yu and her parents. The 4th explosion point was the residence of Xiao Yu and her new husband, because Jin Ruchao's former father-in-law and mother-in-law had a grudge against them because they persuaded them to divorce. The 3rd explosion point was the residence of Jin Ruchao's former father-in-law and mother-in-law. Jin Ruchao once purchased a large amount of explosives, claiming that they were used for quarrying. He spent a total of more than 900 yuan to purchase 575 kilograms of explosives. He and Hao Fengtian from the same village were engaged in explosives manufacturing in an abandoned factory in Luquan City, Hebei, for about a year. Wang Yushun, the director of the factory, disclosed the criminal activity to the police. The police tracked Jin Ruchao's whereabouts through a wanted order and learned that he hired villager Zhang Mula to transport several bags of goods in yellow woven bags, claiming to be chicken feed. The police found Jin Ruchao's warehouse in an abandoned factory near Beisha village. During the interrogation, Wang Yushun admitted that he assisted Jin Ruchao in making explosives and confirmed that the explosives remaining at the explosion site were exactly the same as those they produced. Therefore, the police listed Jin Ruchao as the #1 suspect in the serial bombings and issued a wanted order. In the serial bombings that occurred in Shijiazhuang City, Hebei Province, the suspect Jin Ruchao was wanted nationwide. Prior to this, Yunnan Province. The police provided clues about Jin Ruchao in another case. A week before the incident, a murder occurred in Maguan County, Yunnan. The victim was Wei Jihua from Yanfengdong village, and Jin Ruchao was likely to be the murderer. The relationship between Jin Ruchao and Wei Jihua began in August 2000. At that time, Wei Jihua was abducted from Guangxi Province, China, to Luancheng County, Hebei Province, and met Jin Ruchao on the roadside. Wei Jihua was penniless and hungry, so Jin Ruchao took her home and provided food, and then the two began to live together. However, Jin Ruchao's violent tendencies soon became apparent. In just a few months of living together, he beat Wei Jihua many times, and the violence escalated once when Wei Jihua was fined 160 yuan. On November 11, 2000, Wei Jihua, who could no longer stand Jin Ruchao's brutal behavior, secretly took 600 yuan from Jin Ruchao and ran back to her hometown in Yunnan. But Wei Jihua's departure did not end this nightmare. On February 22, 2001, more than 3 months later, Jin Ruchao found Wei Jihua's home based on the address on Wei Jihua's ID card. The appearance of Jin Ruchao brought huge psychological pressure to Wei Jihua. As soon as they met, Jin Ruchao asked Wei Jihua to marry him, and the two returned to Shijiazhuang together. Of course, Wei Jihua was unwilling to marry Jin Ruchao, but out of fear of Jin Ruchao's brutal and violent behavior, she did not dare to reject Jin Ruchao directly, but politely rejected him in the next few days. But Wei Jihua's refusal had no effect. Jin Ruchao stayed at Wei Jihua's house for half a month, pestering Wei Jihua every day. After learning that there was no hope of getting back together, Jin Ruchao became murderous. One day, while Wei Jihua's parents were out, Jin Ruchao brutally attacked Wei Jihua. The incident occurred on March 9, 2001. During the fierce argument, Jin Ruchao tried to strangle Wei Jihua, but failed. He then dragged Wei Jihua to the kitchen and used a hatchet to slash her head wildly, causing Wei Jihua to die on the spot due to open head injuries and brain damage. Jin Ruchao then hid Wei Jihua's body under the bed, took off his bloody black suit jacket and threw it on the bed. At 5 o'clock in the afternoon, Wei Jihua's parents came home and found blood and a broken skull in the house, and then found their daughter's body under the bed. Jin Ruchao's crimes were described as insane, and his role in the serial bombings caused great harm to society. The Ministry of Public Security organized a nationwide manhunt and captured him on March 23, 2001, in Beihai City, Guangxi. Jin Ruchao admitted that the bombings in Shijiazhuang City were all his own fault and expressed that he had grudges against the victims and had long planned revenge. Before he was caught, he decided to take revenge on those he had a problem with before he died. When Jin Ruchao planned a bombing to kill people in 2000, he purchased explosives and tested their power. However, he did not immediately retaliate because he did not think it was powerful enough. When purchasing explosives in 2001, he asked for more powerful cooked ammonium nitrate. After killing Wei Jihua, he fled to Wenshan County and Kunming, and then returned to Shijiazhuang to retrieve the detonator and paper powder. The explosives Jin Ruchao purchased in 2000 were hidden in the pipeline trench. He found a supplier again in 2001 and agreed to purchase explosives at a price of 1,700 yuan per ton. In the end, he spent 950 yuan to purchase 575 kilograms of explosives. To ensure the effect, he also conducted an explosion test. On April 17, 2001, Jin Ruchao was indicted by the prosecutor for intentional homicide and explosion. Only 25 days later, on April 29th, he was executed. From the description of his criminal behavior, it can be seen that Jin Ruchao was extremely cruel, unreasonable, emotionally unstable, and showed extreme selfishness. Jin Ruchao was born in 1960, originally from Suqian, Jiangsu Province, and came from a poor family. Otitis media was caused by a cold and fever when he was 8 years old. Improper treatment resulted in hearing impairment, which brought difficulties to his interpersonal communication. Hearing problems made it difficult for him to communicate normally with others, gradually making him silent and withdrawn. In the memories of primary school classmates, Jin Ruchao was described as unhygienic and withdrawn. His classmates bullied and laughed at him, and even gave him the nickname Deaf Jin. After dropping out of school, Jin Ruchao joined the workforce, working during the day and studying junior high school content by himself at night. When he was 16 years old, Jin Ruchao entered the Wuchi factory of Shijiazhuang City's No. 3 National Cotton Factory. He was hired as a worker in 1997 but was fired because of hearing problems. After that, he had no fixed career and worked many jobs. Growing up in loneliness, Jin Ruchao closed herself off and was full of malicious suspicion of others. During the cleanup after the explosion, police found his diary, which documented his suspicion and hostility toward others. Jin Ruchao's character gradually became twisted and violent, and the family members living with him were often in fear. He was violent towards his family, even beating his father for trivial matters. Among the siblings, the only one who is close to him is his younger brother. The two often study explosives together, and Jin Ruchao even did detonation experiments at home. In 1984, Jin Ruchao married Xiao Yu, and the two of them promoted cosmetics together. When business was good, he also served as the deputy manager of a cosmetics manufacturer's distribution office in Hebei. After his economic conditions improved, Jin Ruchao indulged in drinking and sex and gradually became dissatisfied with his wife, Xiao Yu. He often beat Xiao Yu brutally for trivial matters, including cutting her cheeks with iron hooks, breaking her arms, and even trying to shock her with electric shocks. Jin Ruchao not only physically abused Xiao Yu, but also brought other women home. Xiao Yu's parents persuaded her to divorce, which made Jin Ruchao hold a grudge. In 1987, Jin Ruchao's younger brother was sentenced to a suspended death sentence for intentional injury, causing Jin Ruchao to lose his only close family member. The following year, Jin Ruchao raped a female friend who rejected him for courting her, and then threatened the victim that if she dared to speak out, she would blow up her whole family. Afterwards, the victim often had nightmares because of the thought of Jin Ruchao's evil deeds. Finally, accompanied by his family, he went to the police station to report the crime. Jin Ruchao was sentenced to 10 years in prison for this crime. After Jin Ruchao was imprisoned, his wife Xiao Yu visited him, and Jin Ruchao's cellmate poured a glass of water for Xiao Yu. It was this glass of water that made Jin Ruchao feel that he had the key evidence of his wife's cheating. Jin Ruchao insisted that his wife had cheated on his inmate and threatened to kill the inmate. Finally, the prison had to transfer Jin Ruchao from Hebei Province No. 4 prison to Shenzhou prison. Although Xiao Yu was pregnant before Jin Ruchao was imprisoned, after this incident, Xiao Yu made up his mind to divorce Jin Ruchao. In 1990, 4 years after their marriage, Xiao Yu divorced Jin Ruchao, who was serving his sentence in prison. In 1994, Jin Ruchao's parents had a car accident. His mother died in the car accident, and his father, who was seriously injured, later remarried. After his mother's death, Jin Ruchao's family arranged for him to be released on medical parole. But as soon as Jin Ruchao was released from prison, he imprisoned his ex-wife. 21 days later, Jin Ruchao was readmitted to prison. After Jin Ruchao was imprisoned for rape, he kept the habit of writing a diary. His diary further revealed his twisted inner world. In the diary, which is more than 100,000 words long, Jin Ruchao has been threatening to kill for revenge and has also conceived many ways to kill. Some of these revenge plans read like serious plots, while others read more like morbid fantasies about venting hatred. From the above, Jin Ruchao looks more like a paranoid personality disorder. People with paranoid personality disorder are extremely self-centered and extremely suspicious. This kind of suspicion is completely different from the defensiveness of ordinary people. They will be sure that others are malicious towards them without any reason, and then look for so-called clues in life to confirm their own views. The paranoid personality is very stubborn and cannot listen to criticism and suggestions at all. After conflicts with others, they never reflect on whether there is something wrong with them. From the perspective of a paranoid personality, everything that is wrong is everyone else's problem, and they are always right. Jin Ruchao's behavior and psychology can be called pathological. Hidden behind the distorted cognition of paranoid personality disorder is his extreme sense of inferiority, shame, and fear. They are unable to face up to their own flaws and shortcomings, unable to face their strong sense of self-loathing, and unable to face their pain caused by shame. At the same time, they are extremely afraid of being hurt, criticized, disgusted, and violent from the outside world. This fear brings what they are left with is a devastating and painful feeling that they are going to break. Because they are unable to face themselves, paranoid personalities project all their painful experiences and hatred of themselves onto others, thinking that it is others who are bad and that others are persecuting them, which makes them suffer so much.